Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of KCU. As usual, we have the panel with Gord Randall in Vancouver on the desk and Justin Dunk in Toronto. But first, we will start with Andrew Wadden and the Reel. And Andrew, do we have a new leader in the Canada West?
You know, there's all this talk about parity in the CIS. Well, you have to look no further than the Canada West Conference if you want to know what parity is all about. All right, away we go. Pick this one up in the second queue. Rams down 14-blank until this.
Picton sails it up and he finds Shinbine in the open. 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Regina Rams.
Shinbine, 68-yard major, cut the deficit to 7. Fourth queue, Rams up by 8 now. Mitchell Picton scores the football version of a hat trick. 58 yards to pay dirt. That's his third tutty of the game. Rams lead grows to 15. But the Prehistorics scored 10 points in the final 10 minutes, including this Kelton Bailey major from 36 yards out. Under 30 seconds to go. Dinos drive the ball to the Rams 11. And, well, take it away, Mr. Mullen.
Rams 40. 2nd and 10. Underdog, he's going to run with it. Gets down to the 5, gets the ball knocked out, loose in the end zone. The Regina Rams recover with 9 seconds remaining, and the Regina Rams will hold on to the victory here at Mosaic Stadium.
Joey Dwyer, beast mode. Rams stun the number 2 team in the nation. Boom!
Yeah, I don't know, that guy's, he's the best in the country, without a doubt, right? I don't care what anybody says, that guy's the best in the country. We've been playing for a long, long time together. And yeah, I guess we got a little bit of chemistry going.
You've beaten Manitoba, you've beaten the defending Vanier Cup champions. Now you've beaten the number 2 team in Canada, but you know there's a long ways to go yet.
Yeah, we've got a long season ahead of us. This one feels good. The past 2 wins have also felt good, but we got a lot more we want to accomplish this season, and we're just getting started.
As a guy that was on an 0-8 team last year, how does this feel?
Feels incredible. Nothing better.
Pivotal matchup in Winnipeg. The home side down by 4 at the recess. Second half, and the Herd, well, they start rumbling. The Bison scored 25 unanswered points in the final 30. Teo Dizar throwing for close to 450 yards. 3 majors. Manitoba's 500 with a huge win over the Green Dogs. T-Birds in Edmonton, and this was a massacre. Michael O'Connor tied a school record, tossing 5 majors, while Marshall Cook, well, he hauled in 3 of those, also tying a school record. UBC, with its widest margin of victory ever, beating the G-Bears by 62. Over to Ontario we go now, and we'll start with the game of the week on national television in front of a homecoming crowd that was sold out at Alumni. But the Griffins faithful, well, they didn't have much to celebrate as the Mustangs put a 50 spot on the mythical Birds. Western beats Guelph for the first time since 2011, taking it by 34. After a disappointing opening to the new Richardson Stadium, Queens bounced back with a W over U of T. After going down 5-blank after the first queue, the Gales scored 20 unanswered en route to their first win of the season. Coach Shahan, he liked what he saw.
I thought our kids played pretty physical and did a good job.
Laurier remains unbeaten after easily getting by the winless Warriors. Eric Giltonen had another ridiculous game, rushing for 176 yards and 4 majors. Ottawa is also without a blemish after beating Windsor on the road. GG slinger Derek Wendell tossed for over 400 yards with 3 tutties. He leads the nation now with 14 TD passes already this season. Carleton got back on track with a statement win on the road versus the Lions. The Blackbirds scoring in double digits in every quarter in this one. The lone game in the RSAQ was between the Vert-Or and the Redmen. Let's head straight to the fourth queue. Sherbrooke down by 5. They try the old-fashioned flea flicker, and it works to perfection. Freddie Caron, 43 yards to La Maison. Green and gold, take it by 9. We wrap up the reel with the Q and the AUS crossover games. SMU up by 13 at the half, but the Gators crawled back This 45-yard scamper and score by Vincent Devon brought the home side within 6. Fourth Q, Huskies up by 12. Zach Graveson hauls in the leather over the middle, and he shimmies his way into the end zone, cutting the deficit to 5. Under a minute to play. Gators knocking on the Dogs' door, and it's Graveson who caps the comeback. Bishops gets its first win, edging the Huskies by 1. The Carabins remain unbeaten after hacking down the Axemen. Montreal, get this, putting up 632 yards of offense while allowing just 96. Meanwhile, over in Sackville, it was much of the same for the Mounties. Laval improved to 3-1 with a 45-point blowout of Mount Allison. And finally, the Stingers made it a sweep for the RCQ, edging the reigning Loney Bowl champs by 6. The win improved Concordia to 500 on the season.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Now it's time for headlines.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
So looky, the Regina Rams are in first place. What does that say about the Canada West in your mind, Gord?
Well, Jim, it says a couple things. First thing it says to me is that when you said last year that Regina was the most talented 0-8 team you've ever seen, you may not have just been saying stuff. It also says that the depth of talent in Canada West is incredibly impressive. And it's 5 deep now. That those standings look like a total mess, with the exception of the Alberta Golden Bears, who have been a shocking disappointment so far this year. The rest of that conference has had their moments, has had their off moments as well, and it's going to be a heck of a stretch drive to watch in that conference.
How about the Regina Rams knocking off Calgary, and they might have the most exciting offense to watch in the country, led by quarterback Noah Picton. And Mitch Picton, after I wrote about him as being a top-end CFL prospect, goes off for over 200 yards. This team, to me, looks legit. And Jim, I know you don't just say stuff, so I knew something was coming with these Regina Rams this year.
See, he's right. Gord's wrong. I don't just say stuff. But we did ask some questions of Tyler Chow earlier. He's got a big game coming up at new Mosaic Stadium. Hey, Tyler, tell me about your game. You came to a lot of people's attention after a couple of weeks when you were leading the nation per game with an average, I think it was 169 yards per game. You had a tough, grind-them-out game against the University of Calgary, and the running game looked great in the first half against the University of Manitoba. If you could describe what your running style and what your game is all about, what would it be?
You know what? I'm very much a zone read kind of running back. Our offense is definitely a lot of zone read if you watch any of our film, and it's easy to run behind a good O-line and a good coordinator.
The one thing that I appreciated was being up in the Huskies Lounge in the Graham Clubhouse, and they have a post-game show up there. And you were led up there after the 1-point loss to Calgary, and you were surly, you were angry, you did not like to lose. Tell me how well you absorb losing, because that's what I like to see out of a competitor.
Sometimes it's not about losing itself. It's kind of how about you react and bounce back from that. And I think, I definitely didn't take that loss easy, and I still haven't. And, I'm going to take that with me going into Calgary.
You're accustomed to playing in front of some pretty large crowds at the University of Saskatchewan. And as well, you get a lot of media attention there. So going down to Regina to play in front of 16,500 fans, is it really that much of a leap for the Huskies to be in front of that many eyes?
It's definitely not that much of a leap, but the one thing that they have going for them, it's definitely going to be a home crowd for Regina, and I think it's going to be noisy. And I think that's one of the things that we have to take into account, is that we need to be focused and execute everything to perfection.
How excited are the guys in the room to be playing in this game? I mean, after all, this is the first game in the new barn in Regina.
It's easy to get pumped up to play Regina, provincial rivals, and it's easy. I mean, everyone loves playing against a provincial rival, and wake up and play against them. That's it.
One of your coaches said to me that pound for pound, you play with the most violence out of any player on the team. First of all, what do you think about that? And second of all, do you have any regard for your own self-preservation?
I think I just try and go out there and play with some aggression. If you're gonna make mistakes, make it 100%, and that's just the way I live. That's the way I play. It's you just go out there and you play. Self-preservation wise, you got to put your body on the line for the team, and there's next guys up, right? If I go down, someone else is gonna take my spot, and that's just the way it is.
Hey, Tyler, best of luck in that game on the weekend between yourselves and Regina. It's a really big stage, and we're hoping for something big out of both sides, and especially from you.
Thanks for having me.
The sub-headline this week is that the OUA is back to blowouts. When you look at the stats, it's pretty clear that even with a handful of upsets, which has made the OUA more than compelling this year, it's clear they have an issue with runaway games. Even some of their better teams are in the middle of runaway games. Gord, is there anything they can do or anything they should do?
Well, there are a couple ideas that I have. The first is that they should really look at weighing the schedule. We see year after year the same teams more or less rising to the top of the conference and the same teams more or less scuffling along at the bottom. And as much as people want to say there's lots of room for a program to move back and forth, this is a level where you're looking at the core of a team being around for 3, 4, 5 years at a time. So it's not typically just a one-year swing from the bottom to the top. And in fact, I can't remember the last time we've seen something like that in the OUA. This year, the closest is probably the York Lions, who have looked semi-respectable in a couple of games, but they have enough hiccups that they're looking like a long shot to make the playoffs, and the top end of the conference is going to be the same as it's always been. The other thing that they can do is convince the two schools in Toronto to take their football more seriously. The University of Toronto should be a powerhouse. They've got a huge school. It's a football powerhouse traditionally, and they've been awful for the last 25 years. And York across town, not much better. Until that changes, you're going to have issues in the OUA.
For me, guys, it's all about flat out being better. And the perfect example of this is the Carleton Ravens. They didn't even have a football program just a couple of years ago. They come in, they're already competing with the big boys. They knock off Western this year. They were in the playoffs last year, had an upset win over Queens to get to the OUA semifinals, and they're just in their fourth year back from not existing for quite a while. So just be better, get the right people in place, and compete. There is lots of football talent in this province to be found. You just need to go out and get it.
You're absolutely right on that, Justin. And the other factor that he doesn't talk about is the financial commitment. And Carleton has shown that if you're willing to put that investment into your program, you can jump into the upper echelon really quickly. And that's why I target the two Toronto schools to take their sports more seriously, Jim, because they do have the wherewithal to do it if they wanted to.
Well, speaking of the Carleton Ravens, they've got the Panda Game coming up, and we caught up with Nate Behar, the talented receiver for those Ravens, and asked him about the Panda Game coming up. So, Nate, how jacked up are you for this upcoming Panda Game, and how pumped up are the rest of your teammates?
Oh, it's a different kind of atmosphere. There's a different electricity. More guys are in. We're usually pretty good at having our own kind of player-led meetings on our Mondays, getting through the film and stuff, but there's just a different sort of intensity. Guys are bringing in snacks for each other just to make sure we can make it in for the long haul. And the energy just on campus and everything like that just fuels it. And it's one of those ones where you almost want to fight it, because it can be so distracting, can be so overwhelming that you kind of can make it into something bigger than it is. But at the same time, you got to let the energy fuel you and let it be what makes you have a good week of practice and come out swinging on Saturday.
I had a chance to be in Ottawa for a Red Blacks game earlier this year at the end of August, and it really appeared to me that Ottawa is a supercharged football town these days. You guys have made a contribution towards that. What's it like to be in that atmosphere?
It's incredible, actually. It's such a loud stadium for not being one of the bigger ones in the CFL and whatnot, but the atmosphere around it is good. There's people talking about it at different places. You go to the grocery store, people know about Panda Game. It's pretty cool. It has almost a small town feel, with Ottawa being such a big city for what it is, and it's nice to be a part of. It's great to know that the rebirth of us and bringing back the Red Blacks had such a big part of it as well. And it's also kind of nice when you get the feeling that people kind of favor Carleton a little more than OU. That's kind of a nice little touch of it at the end.
In the middle of all this is your draft year. Tell me about East-West Bowl, that experience, and what it's like keeping an eye on building towards and through your draft year, even though you got so much going on in front of you this year.
East-West was fun. I mean, it's fun. It's one of those games where, the game's going to be a little bit sloppy. You only get a couple days of practice together. There's some two-a-days here with guys from all around the country and whatnot. But it's just such an awesome experience getting to play against guys of that level. And we had 7 guys go was really getting to see that the guys that we practice against every day here at Carleton can play or can really excel at every level. So we kind of got to bring a little bit of confidence back to our teammates, which is really good. Personally, how it's all been shaking out, I mean, it's one of those ones you don't want to think too far ahead. I mean, it's one of I came to Carleton to build this program personally, and I know that's what all the guys that came along with us from the first year did, and so that's definitely the first goal. Anything that comes after that, getting to play professional football at any level would be a dream come true. I'm going to let those cards kind of fall into place as they do on their own, and we'll worry about that when the season's done.
Yeah, it's good to pay attention to what's in front of you right now. Tell me, how surprised are you that 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 in the OUA is so close?
It's been wild. I mean, after every single game, you're running to your phone to check the score of the games around the league because you don't know what's going to go on. I think it's been really good for the league, for sure. OUA has definitely been one of the ones that struggled in years past with parity, with the powerhouse teams being the powerhouse teams year in and year out. So seeing the guys, top dogs fall every once in a while, it's pretty darn nice. And seeing some of the low guys come up and shock guys like you saw with Windsor is awesome. And it just makes everything so much more intense. It makes every single week of preparation more important. And that's really what I love about it, is that you can't just snooze in a week. You can't take a week off of practice. And we know that once playoffs come, every single round of the playoffs are going to be a shootout and going to be a tough one. Great stuff, Nate. Appreciate it, and best of luck in the Panda game. Thank you so much. Take it easy. My first weekend warrior is Regina Ram Joey Dwyer. Not only did he lead a rebuilt Rams defense to first place, but he hit on an end zone bound Jimmy Underdahl, and that was pure football theater at its best, freeing the ball into the end zone and securing a win over the previously undefeated Dinos with 9 seconds left.
Jim, let's stick with the Rams here, but go to the offensive side of the football. Mitch Picton, what a performance in this game, especially in that third quarter where he ripped off 3 touchdown receptions in total, 13 catches, 215 yards, and those 3 scores, as I mentioned, to help the Rams upset the Dinos.
And I'm going to head out to your neck of the woods, Justin, and talk about the Western offensive line. These guys have had a phenomenal season. They're averaging more than 6 yards a carry on the ground. And when you're in the Canadian game, that's kind of the magic number for having a sustainable rushing attack, is 6 yards per carry. Western's achieving that so far. If they keep that up, they're going to continue taking the pressure off the shoulders of Chris Merchant, who also is a weekend warrior for me this week. He has stabilized that position for the Mustangs. He tossed for 322 over the weekend, 2 touchdowns. His only pick went right through a receiver's hands. He has been excellent since taking that position over from Stevenson Bone and giving Western a boost at the most important position on the football field.
With all the talk of Noah Picton and Derek Wendell for the heck, Teo Dizar gave you a reason to pay attention on Saturday. Last week's CISPOW started slow, and then he led a Bison rampage, going 28 for 42 for 447 and 3 TDs. The Herd were down at the half, and given the way the C-Dub is breaking, they may have had their season sitting in the balance, and Dizar responded big time.
I'll go to Bishops for my second weekend warrior from the past week of games, fellas, and take receiver Zach Raveson of the Gators. Had 10 catches for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns, both coming in the final 10 minutes of the game. And the biggest one came with 31 seconds left to lift the Gators to a 30-29 homecoming victory. Arash Madani, a noted Gators alum, would say hashtag raise a toast.
For my second weekend Warriors, I'm going to do the hometown pick. There's been a ton of hand-wringing in this town about what's going on with Michael O'Connor, including from between these two lips. He responded with a huge game over the weekend, 27 for 36 for 413 and 5 touchdowns without an interception. But my actual Warrior, the guy I want to focus on, Marshall Cook, shows up, had not caught a single pass in the regular season prior to this weekend. He catches 3 of them, just 3 targets, for 82 yards and found pay dirt on all 3. If he can emerge as a target in that UBC offense that has been struggling for a playmaker early on aside from Travell Pinto, then that's going to be a huge development for them.
Well, you just mentioned his name, and Travell Pinto of UBC, man, what are you doing? You are a WW because you should not be allowed to do this in the modern game. 2 receptions for 18 yards, no big deal, right? But when you tag on an interception because you're playing both ways, who do you think you are? Lou Delorier? That's single face bar, leather helmet stuff. For that, Pinto, you get a shout out. When we come back, Coach Olsen looks at the Carleton running game.
Krown Countdown U is supported by the Guelph Griffins, the defending Yates Cup champions.
Welcome back, all. Time to fire up the video board for a pre-Panda version of another X's and Olsen.
This week, we're going to talk about the Carleton Ravens, and normally we're talking about X's and O's. Today, we're going to talk about some Jimmies and Joes. Scheme is great, but players make the scheme. Let's take a look here at this first clip. Okay, this inside zone is supposed to hit right inside one of these 2 or 3 gaps between the tackles. Watch this dynamic player, Jade Rowe, bounce this ball outside, get into open space, and then take it to the house. Nothing sexy inside zone, but pause it right there. Bounces the ball outside. All the defenders were sucked into that inside zone, typical run lanes. Now he's out into space. This is where Rowe is special. Coordinator's dream, in space, make the first guy miss and then run away from the pack. You can see here the dynamic cutting ability. You also have the ability to run away, change directions, and find the end zone. The next clip here is basically the exact same play, and you'll see a similar result because of the dynamic playmaking ability of Rowe. Let's roll it. You got inside zone. We're basically just base blocking this up here. We're going to chip and get up to the next level. Rowe's going to get up inside and then bounce outside and find pay dirt. Here we go. You can see him get the mesh inside and bounce outside into space, one-on-one with defenders, getting to the edge. Now you see power, stiff arm, down the sidelines, first down into the red zone. The next clip is on special teams. One of the most dynamic players I've seen this year, Tunde Adeleke, returner for the Carleton Ravens. Let's take a look here. They don't block this like a work of art, but they're able to take it to the house because of his dynamic playmaking ability. You've got people holding people up on the line of scrimmage. 2 big blocks here, just enough to make him miss. Breaks a tackle, another one, and now he's off to the races. And right here, a little change of speed, and he's gone to the house. Watch the patience setting up that block, and now you see the speed. Touchdown Ravens. It's happened 3 times this year where he's put a punt return into the end zone. Dynamic playmaker, difference maker, and that's why the Ravens are 3-2.
Okay, Triple W 2K. How much of the battle for the wheat belt is just an open house for Rider fans? I've talked to media in Regina, and they're more focused on the building than the actual game.
And that's disappointing, Jim, because there are huge ramifications on the field in this game. For the Regina Rams, Saskatchewan is the only contender in the conference you haven't already defeated this year, having lost that opening weekend game in double overtime. So this is a big game for you as you continue to establish yourself near the top of the Canada West standings. For the Saskatchewan Huskies, you can continue your dominance over your cross-provincial rival and get another leg up as you hang on into that third, fourth tier in the conference standings.
Okay, Mr. Guelph grad, Triple W2K, can the Guelph Griffins successfully get into the playoffs, let alone defend their Yates Cup title?
I'll say they make the playoffs for a couple reasons. I think there's a win left on the schedule against York, and I think they can get a victory against McMaster. Now, hold on a second. Here's why. They played Ottawa tight down in Ottawa, and Ottawa pretty much throttled the Marauders. So I think this Griffins team will be refocused after that blowout win that was disappointing on homecoming and come out and get a big-time W against McMaster.
So, Justin, Triple W2K, is the AUS better off playing interlocking games against, say, maybe some of the lesser lights of the OUA?
With where that conference is right now, and with all due respect, I believe it's in the best interest of the AUS to play those crossover games with the OUA instead of the RSEQ. Yes, they're competitive with the bottom teams like Concordia and Bishops in Quebec, but if they came to Ontario, I think it would benefit the AUS as well from a recruiting standpoint, and not only just from a competitive standpoint. They would be seen and heard by all of the different talents around Ontario and actually have a bit of a profile.
My goodness, that sounds like some part of the Northern 8 proposal.
I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole, but I will say what a fantastic idea Justin has there. And not only does it benefit the AUS, who, as you may have guessed based on my previous statements, I think should be making more crossover games anyway, but it also benefits the OUA in that some of these teams in the OUA actually get a chance to measure themselves against something else in the country and potentially have some more winnable games. Heck, we saw Bishops salvage what could have been a winless season with a game against an AUS team this last weekend. And I'm not saying they are just going to be cannon fodder coming out every week, but I do believe that it benefits both sides in this arrangement and not just the AUS.
So we've got the Panda Game, we've got the Wheat Belt, we've got the 50th anniversary of the University of Calgary. This could be the most well-attended regular season weekend in modern CIS history. So you know what we're going to tell you? Let's get out to the game.
The CFL and our partners at Football Canada want to make sure we keep growing, promoting, and investing in a safe game. Football Canada now requires all amateur coaches to be safe contact trained by 2017. By creating a standard of safety for all in our football community, we're making an already great game even better. Make sure your youth coach is safe contact trained, because making a safe game means making a better game.